morning.
Good morning.
So I think I wanted to mention that there's two things when we sit zazen. It's not to chase after anything or escape from actually anything. So not to chase after or not to escape. And then there's to receive, receive and accept what we have been given. So those are important things when we take the seated posture of zazen. We're always trying to create something or make something into something different. But when we, it all comes down to that the Buddha just actually sat down, just sat down on the ground. But when we sit, somehow we go off many places, to the moon, how great we are, how calm we are, how nervous we are, how much pain our body is in, or maybe how we should change our position, or maybe this is not the right practice, or this is the best practice. So all of that's going on, but it's really just sitting down. So to receive and to accept a yourself, which is your individual self, but when the individual self lets go and fully accepts that, then we can appreciate this life, that what we have. And that's basically like what we're doing. We're not becoming Zen people or Buddhists or anything like that, but it's appreciating your life on the spot. So for the temple stay people that came here, or that you're here now, of course the zazen posture is interesting, because we're trying to always, I think, solve something or find something. But we look far away from ourselves to try to find it. I mean, we even come here to try to find it. But it's where you live, where you drive, where you argue, where you agree, where you disagree, where you make judgments or no judgments, where you shop, where you get stuck in traffic is all actually, it's arriving. A while ago, I took a drive with my son and my wife down the coast, down to Big Sur, down in that area, and it was past, I guess, Carmel and Monterey and Carmel, and I've never seen the coast. That was the first time. This was probably like a year ago. And then there's many bridges that you cross, and you can look down to the water. And so there was this one trail out to the coast, and it had it had many cars, and so we had to park on this kind of the part of the road that is kind of dangerous, and then we kind of walk down to the parking lot because there's a lot of cars in there, and there's some younger people there. They're listening to loud music, loud music, and you could say they're having a good time and probably partying or something. So we walked past them, and you know, and then they started to walk behind us, and so they were talking about politics and the economy and just everything underneath the sun, and so there's a trail that goes through like these bushes, and then it goes down to like a creek, and the trail follows the water out to the ocean, and it was quite a long trail, and you would have to go through the trail kind of narrowed because there was overgrowth of like trees and stuff, and some poison oak. So they were behind us, and they were talking, and after a while, then they're talking, kind of it came lower and lower as actually we all were. They were kind of not behind us now. They were kind of with us. They were with our group. We were the partiers. But we were all kind of all together, and it was, I remember it was very quiet. It was very quiet, and we all knew that we were together. And when we arrived, then out at this, it's kind of like it was like a little inlet, but then there was rocks that went around this corner, and you could go around the corner, and we all went around the corner, and there was all these people, and they were sitting, and they were completely quiet, and they were looking at nothing. And so to look at nothing and then do nothing is it's kind of innate to look at nothing. So that, I mean, that's the sitting is we're not doing anything. But everyone was so quiet, and it was yeah, everyone was all together, and it was so quiet, and everyone was in their own way, but facing a certain direction in which everything was right, and everyone had their dignity, a strength, also their characters, personality, but it was everyone was there, and when everyone was there because everyone was truly there. It's quite an amazing thing is when we the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, when we accept, or when we see something, not just see it from here, but when we see something, its beauty, without saying it's square, round, or the sounds like this, or eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, when we see everything in that way, that's when we have arrived, and when it's the arrival of all creations. And then together, then we say, oh, it's beautiful. Then it becomes, oh, just beautiful, a small beautiful, but it's great, and it's so big that we cannot name it, but we always try to find it. Like when we're on the cushion, we always try to find it, but it's right where we are. There's somebody told me a while ago that the Mississippi River, the people, and then I Googled it too, that they try to find the waterhead to where the Mississippi starts, and it's at this lake, but it's at the edge of this lake, and it's like you could, like, people are like roll up their pants to just walk across it, and it's like maybe 6 feet 6 feet wide to where it starts, and then it goes thousands of miles, and it turns into a huge river. But we always try to find this source, which is it's sourceless, and it's all creations, and it's always changing. But once we arrive at this place to where we sit, and we train. It's a training. So yeah, Zazen it's not to try to understand, but it's having a direct experience of that arrival, your arrival. So, and everyone has it, but then they say they because we have been conditioned through education, karmically through our parents, by the news and everything, we think that when we feel this way, that something was magically happening. But the source, in the Sandokai, they say the subtle source is clear and bright, or it's the spiritual source which exists everywhere. It's not something that we can find, but it's something that we can receive and accept. That's when we're sitting upright, and we are fully actually vulnerable. So to be vulnerable is to take off actually all our, you would say, of course, Dogen says, drop off body and mind, but it's all our armor that we wear, all our costumes, everything. And then we physically arrive. That's why it's very important to actually we stay seated on the Vajra throne, and it's actually a cauldron of fire. That's what I was going to say. I don't know. Cauldron of fire. The Vajra throne is it's a high heat. So that's why it's difficult to sit zazen. It's because the flame is on, and you have to accept where you are. That's why they say this. You do not leave. You sit within in this section. So when we sit zazen, it speeds up this heat, and then it gets hot. see. Of course, uh, the one day sitting, when, as I remember last week, it was hot. The one day sitting was hot, and then, of course, when people arrive for the temple stay, it was, yesterday was hot, but now it's cool, and everyone forgot the heat. So of course the idea of the hot and cold, and so I looked into this writing that Dogen did, and I'll just read a few phrases of this. It's called Shunryu. It's a spring and autumn, and Shunryu, spring and autumn, expresses the seasons. So this spring and autumn, a Dogen, who is actually the founder of our Zazen lineage, describes the Buddhist attitude toward cold and heat. And quotes a famous conversation on this subject between Tozan Ryokai and also a student of his, or a monk. So great master Tozan Ryokai, the story goes, is asked by a monk, when cold or heat come, how are we to avoid them? The master says, why do you not go to the place without cold and heat? The monk says, what is the place without cold and heat? The master says, when it is cold, kill the teacher with cold. When it is hot, kill the teacher with heat. I put you in it. When it is cold, kill the you with cold. When it is hot, kill the you with heat. And this is it sounds very very ordinary, but it's actually very, very profound. What I was just talking about is to accept. And when you arrive, then there is only the heat that is also the cold. Also, when does the heat start, and then when does the cold stop? Or when does the cold start, and then when does the heat stop? Is an interesting one. So to completely arrive when you sit and actually come back to how hot you are, then there's actually a very cool breeze, or there's a coolness that happens, and it's not cool as in temperature wise, but it's a cool which is then it's a world of cool, or it's a world of heat. So everything then is covered by a world of heat that is non-discriminative between good and bad. So it's like when we our training, just in sitting zazen, we will have ideas that come up, am I doing this right? Or I have the confidence too, or my legs are in pain. But when we keep then these thoughts that we have, when we do not grasp, and when we let these thoughts go, whether they be good or bad, we let them go, so we do not have any judgment towards them. Because we usually have judgment towards everything that we see, that we hear, that we smell, judgment that we taste at a restaurant, or judgment that we feel with the body. If it's hot, then I like cold. But this when we work with it on the cushion, on the flame, the Vajra seat, then we see actually how the mind goes here and there. And in the Fukan Zazengi, Dogen talks about pros and cons, administering, cutting corners. Cutting corners is a good one. How am I gonna save time or invest money or plan for the future, or all that is in Zazen when you're sitting. But we do not do anything, and we remain completely still, and we have a thought or we have an itch on our nose, and we do not itch because we remain, we do not make judgments on this, that it might be a mosquito or all that is it's keeping all your sensations separated, so we do not then act on this, and we do not actually create conditioning or habitual or habit energy. We still create karma by just sitting here, but we're trying to aim in a way that's beyond then this subject and object. So therefore, then we are actually doing nothing. Doing nothing, just like that group at the ocean, completely doing nothing, and then everything is one. There's no discrimination. When I was in Japan, it was a cold season, and it was snow, and there was a lot of snow. There was 12 feet of snow on top of the Soto. The Soto is the meditation hall, and when we'd sit, it would slide, and it would make this huge like that, and everyone was like, and it was so cold in there. But it was so cold, it was beyond cold. But at the beginning, when it was it was fall going into winter, it was warm, and then it got cold, and then I was all, this is not bad, it's not bad. And you're sitting there, it's not bad, I'm strong. And then it got colder and colder and colder, and it kept on going down farther and farther, and I couldn't even conceive what cold is, and then you have to be cold, It's interesting when there is no escape from it. So that's life's workings is like that when we're pushed in a corner. So that's why sesshin and zazen and sitting is so important here. But most people do not like to sit. Very, very few will sit, and you don't escape from it, and then there's something that happens from the mat, or from this place we arrive. Then it's the arrival of everything. So yeah, this let me read a little. Many have discussed this story in the past, and many should consider it in the present. Buddhist ancestors inevitably have experienced it, and those who have experienced it are the Buddhist ancestors. Many Buddhist ancestors of the past and present, in the Western heavens and in the Eastern lands, have seen the story as their real features. The realization of the features of this story is the reality of Buddhist Buddhist ancestors. That being so, we should clarify in detail the monk's question: when cold or heat come, how are we to avoid them? That means detailed examination and experience of the very moment in which cold has come and of the very moment in which heat has come. Both the totality of cold and the totality of heat in this cold and heat are cold and heat themselves. Because they are cold, it's interesting, because they are cold and heat themselves. When they have come from the very experience of cold and heat themselves, and they are manifest from the very eyes of cold and heat themselves. This is the very place without cold and heat, and these very eyes is the place without cold and heat. The founding ancestors' words, when it is cold, kill the you with cold. When it is hot, kill the you with heat, are about the situation just at the moment of having arrived. When it is cold, the expression is killing with cold, but when it is hot, killing with heat need not always be the expression. Cold is utterly cold and heat is utterly hot, even if we have been able to discover various methods of avoidance. They are all like replacing a tail with a head. Cold is just the vivid eyes of the ancestors. Heat is just the warm skin and flesh of my late master. Our zazen is not trying to be fixed like a rock. Both body and mind are always moving and changing, and the reality in which we are always changing always deviates from right now, right here. Even in our zazen, our mind is sometimes in the past and thinking, I did such a great thing, or I made a terrible mistake, and therefore I'm either a great person or not so good. Likewise, we are thinking about the future even when sitting facing the wall. But no matter in what way we deviate from right now, right here, in our sitting, we return to this moment. That is all we do within our zazen. Nothing is really fixed. We try to keep this immovable posture, but often we find that our body is bent this way or is bent that way, Not only our mind, but also our body is also bent or twisted in this way or that way. We find our posture is not upright, so whatever we become aware that our posture is twisted, we try to return to the upright position. With both body and mind, we return to right now, right here, this moment, with this body and mind. That is the only thing we do in our zazen. Our zazen is not a method to reach an original source. The original source is right here, right now. Thank you.